We are following breaking news out of Georgia, where another plea deal has been made in the Georgia election interference case. Trump's former campaign attorney, Kenneth Chesebro, is facing 7 charges, including 2 counts of conspiracy to commit forgery. Joining us now is CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, thanks for being with us. So how significant are these plea deals for former President Trump's overall case?
They're significant because what we saw yesterday with respect to one of his other former attorneys, Sidney Powell, and then today with respect to Kenneth Chesebro, is that they both have said, we will testify in other cases. We know right now, I believe there are 16 other co-defendants. The big one that obviously many people are focused on is the former president himself. So is this a win for the prosecution to be able to get guilty pleas on lesser charges? Yes, it's always risky to go to trial, but I think your question is exactly right, which is when now we have 2 former attorneys saying we will testify against the other co-defendants, and when, let's remember, for this Georgia election interference case, the former president is expected to bring an advice of counsel defense. It's hard to bring that particular defense when your lawyers have pled guilty to crimes.
And remind us, in Kenneth Chesebro's case, we touched on it a moment ago, what was it that he had been accused of and what did he plead guilty to?
So he was accused of a broad scheme that included these racketeering charges that the district attorney, Fani Willis, had brought, essentially trying to subvert the election in general. But more specifically, he's charged in this kind of alleged conspiracy relating to sending fake electors to the Electoral College. The idea that he said, you know what we could do? We could send people who are not actually empowered to vote in the Electoral College and at least try and politically muddy the waters by asking these other people who are not empowered to vote for Trump to go to the Electoral College and try and cast their ballots for Trump. What he pled guilty to is essentially just that, and it involves some false filings. This is a misdemeanor, as we saw with respect to Sidney Powell. Obviously, he has not pled guilty to all of the felony charges, but that's what we often see. It's either the eve of trial for Sidney Powell or the morning of trial for Kenneth Chesebro. There's no motivation like seeing that jury, that potential jury, walk into a box to say, okay, I'll take a deal.
All right. And the plea is happening as we speak. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Have you gone over the indictment with your attorney, Mr. Grubman, as well as Mr. Aurora?
Yes.
Do you understand that you were originally charged in count 1 with RICO, count 9, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, count 11, conspiracy to commit forgery, count 13, conspiracy to commit false filings and writings, count 15, conspiracy to commit false filing false documents, count 17, conspiracy to commit forgery, count 19, conspiracy to commit false statements and writings?
Yes.
Do you understand that the state that this is a negotiated plea, and as part of that agreement, the state has agreed to null pros counts 1, 9, 11, 13, 17, and 19, and will be moving forward on count 15 only?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for count 15, which is conspiracy to commit filing false documents?
Yes.
And do you understand that that carries a minimum of 1 year to a maximum of 5 years to serve?
I do.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to this charge? And if you plead not guilty or if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the waiver of rights form with your attorney?
I have.
And have you signed it as well?
Yes, I have.
Along with Mr. Aurora?
Yes.
Judge, if I may, I'll sit back to the court. Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney, Mr. Aurora, and Mr. Grubman?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to talk with them about all the facts and circumstances regarding the charges in the indictment, including your potential defenses?
I have.
Do you need more time to discuss your case with either of your attorneys?
No.
And are you satisfied with their services?
Yes.
Mr. Grubman, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Yes.
Do you waive any and all defects that may lie within that indictment?
Yes.
Mr. Chesbro, have you been arrested on these charges that lies in indictment 23 SC 188947?
Yes.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants that involve these charges?
No.
No.
Do you understand that this is a negotiated plea, which means your attorneys and the state have reached a negotiated recommendation to make to the court?
I do.
Do you understand that the court is not bound by that recommendation and could sentence you to the maximum penalty for the charges?
I do.
Do you understand that the recommendation in this particular case as to count 15, conspiracy to commit filing false documents, is 5 years to be served on probation, a $5,000 fine, and that I believe you're asking the court to treat you as a first offender. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, $5,000 restitution. You understand that?
Yes.
And do you understand also special conditions of the probation is that you complete 100 hours of community service?
Yes.
And that you write an apology letter to the citizens of the state of Georgia?
Which I have, yes.
Yes. And that you truthfully testify at all hearings and trials involving co-defendants in this matter, that you have no communication with co-defendants, witnesses, or the media until all cases have been resolved against all co-defendants.
Yes.
And do you understand that you must give a full recorded proffer with the state, that you continue to also provide documents and evidence subject to any lawful privileges asserted in good faith?
Yes.
And Your Honor, the defendant has already done an apology letter, which the state will tender into evidence of State's Exhibit Number 1. And also this morning, Mr. Chesbro, along with counsel, did give a proffer to the state. And I believe there is an understanding that any outstanding emails, text message, or any of those things will be turned over to the state in a timely manner.
Indeed. Yes.
Mr. Chesbro, do you understand, as I stated before, if the judge does not follow the recommendation, you can withdraw your guilty plea and go forward with trial?
Yes.
Do you understand that this is a guilty plea, well, for your case, you're asking for first offender. So once you have completed first offender, you can honestly say that you have not been convicted of a felony. And I'll go over that with you a little bit more.
Yes, I understand.
And do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on any other convictions you may have in any other jurisdictions in the state of Georgia or outside of the state of Georgia and in federal courts?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are being placed on probation as part of this plea? As being on probation, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of the probation. Do you understand that? Do you understand that if you violate your probation or any other special conditions, you will be subject to revocation of the balance of the sentence?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are not allowed to possess or use firearms as a result of this plea and where you're on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are not a United States citizen, this guilty plea will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at trial would, and that this is true regardless of any advice your attorney may have given you or anyone may have given you?
Yes, fortunately, I am.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea, just as there would be for a conviction after trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, the right to serve as a juror, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport firearms, the ability to obtain employment, and your membership of any state or federal bars of which you are a member.
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, if you use, receive, possess, transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years?
Yes.
It's my understanding you're asking the court to treat you as a first offender. Is that correct?
Correct.
Have you gone over the First Offender Act with your attorneys, Mr. Grubman and Mr. Aurora?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever pled guilty or nolo to or ever been convicted of a felony in the state of Georgia or any other jurisdiction?
No.
Have you ever been sentenced for any crime, felony, or misdemeanor under the First Offender Act?
No.
Has your attorney explained fully to you the First Offender Act?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you violate the terms of your first offender or commit a new offense while on first offender probation, your first offender status could be revoked, you could be adjudicated guilty, and you could be resentenced up to the maximum sentence for the charge in this indictment for which you are pleading?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering this guilty plea?
I do.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you by the state, the right to testify or remain silent and not incriminate yourself? Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you understand that this guilty plea You are giving up that all of those rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not to incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses, the right of assistance of counsel hired by you or appointed by the court if you could not afford one, the right of the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf.
You have been watching defendant Kenneth Chesebro pleading guilty in a Georgia courtroom in that Georgia election case. Fascinating window into the judicial system. And joining us now to help break down all of this is CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, explain for us what, for people maybe just joining us, the circumstances of what we were hearing. As I understand it, that was the clerk reading off the terms of this plea deal.
The clerk reading to Kenneth Chesebro and saying, do you understand these were the charges against you and you are agreeing to plead guilty to this one felony count of filing false documents? This is actually quite common in courtrooms throughout the country, which is in order to accept a plea deal, you need to make sure that the defendant completely understands what they're agreeing to and that this is voluntary. I had the honor of working for a judge after law school. I saw a number of plea deals, and you want to make sure that somebody understands that they're giving away their right to contest these charges. They're giving away their right to a trial. That's very serious, and that they understand all the terms. Recently, we saw a plea deal fall apart with respect to President Biden's son. So it's not always the case that this is just a rubber stamp. But we see today is, I think, fairly predictable after Sidney Powell yesterday pled guilty, which is more and more defendants in this Georgia election interference case are now agreeing to take a deal from the prosecution. Essentially, in exchange, they are agreeing to testify in the other cases.
All right, let's bring into this conversation former federal prosecutor Scott Fredricksen joining us now. He's also an independent counsel and partner at Foley & Lardner LLP. Thanks very much for being with us. So, as Jessica says, perhaps fairly predictable that this plea agreement now today would be coming on the heels of what we saw yesterday with Sidney Powell. What does this potentially mean for former President Trump's case?
I don't think it's an overstatement to say that it is potentially devastating, not only in the Georgia case, but also in the January 6th case brought by the special counsel, Jack Smith. We now have two attorneys who were centrally involved with the former president and his group in the alleged scheme to stop the confirmation of the presidency of Joe Biden. We have two attorneys now pleading guilty. And Chesbro, of course, is critical because he was the author of the memos that really helped describe the process by which they were going to put forth the fraudulent slate of electors in Georgia, but in 6 other states as well. And now we also have Chesbro as well as Powell, who were there with the president in the White House, who will be able to testify directly as to what the president said, what he authorized, what he did. So other than the indictments itself, I think this is likely the most devastating development for the former president to date.
Jessica, did these two pleas signal more to come potentially?
I mean, it's important for us to remember that most cases do not go to trial. It's always risky, even if there is a lot of evidence, it's always risky for a prosecutor to walk into a courtroom. We know now that in criminal cases, prosecutors need a unanimous verdict and they need to prove the highest threshold in all of our legal system, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you get one juror who's saying, I think they did it, but I'm not sure beyond a reasonable doubt, then that's a loss for the prosecution. So I think we'll expect more of these, in part because a lot of cases do not go to trial. Most cases don't. And in part because once you see the dam break, once one defendant decides to plead guilty, it's not only a psychological shift, but it can actually also alter the other cases and alter what the other defendants might be able to argue in their cases. As we said, I think this is really harmful for the former president because, in part, if he was going to say, my lawyers told me to, if that was going to be his defense, an advice of counsel defense, it's very difficult to do when your lawyers have pled guilty, in this case, to a felony.
Scott, I want to go back to something you were talking about a moment ago, and that is the depth of knowledge that attorneys close to the former president could have with regard to the events surrounding this case. What specifically, aside from sort of verbal communications, what other types of evidence might they be able to provide if they were acting in this sort of capacity legally, trying to figure out ways in which to carry out certain processes? Would there be written notes? Would there be perhaps things of that nature in addition to any kind of verbal communications?
Well, yes, potentially there's more to be obtained from both these defendants in terms of written notes, although most of that should have been produced by now. But in the end, it is, as my colleague states, likely we're going to see more defendants plead guilty. It is absolutely overwhelming for the defendants who have not pled guilty. And now I'm really thinking of Rudolph Giuliani, Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff, who are going to sit there along with the former president and hear two attorneys who were there sitting in the White House as they discussed these schemes that are alleged not only in the Georgia case, but in the January 6th case. There's nothing more persuasive to a jury than firsthand testimony of when the criminal scheme, whether it be this one or a bank robbery, is cooked up. Jurors want to hear firsthand of what happened, what was said, who agreed to what. And now the prosecutors have that. And these are not minor players in the conspiracies that are alleged, both in Georgia and the January 6th conspiracies. These are significant players in that conspiracy. So the landscape has changed considerably this week for the former president.
And on that point, Jessica, talking about the landscape and former President Trump's circle, what could potentially this mean for Rudy Giuliani, who, as we know, was close to the president and there certainly appearing at one point alongside Sidney Powell, many will remember. What could this mean for the challenges that he's facing now?
I think exactly as Scott said, that we're now looking at another attorney of the former president, Rudy Giuliani. And we know that he has been charged. We know that he's faced legal challenges in other states involving his behavior, involving whether or not he can still be a member of the bar. As I've said to my students, these post-election cases should not be taught in an election law classroom. They should be taught in an ethical lawyering classroom in terms of what not to do. With respect to Rudy Giuliani, I think it's fair to say that his attorneys today are looking at, as Scott said, how the legal landscape has changed. They're looking at the plea deals that were offered and accepted to Sidney Powell and to Kenneth Chesebro. And I think they're making a determination as to whether they can move forward with their case. I do think the more that you see attorneys who gave very similar advice to the former president plead guilty to crimes, the more pressure there is for somebody like another former attorney of the president, Rudy Giuliani, to consider his options.
And Scott, if you were a member of former President Trump's current legal team, what is likely the thought process happening now with this second plea agreement here in just 2 days?
Well, it's all about damage control right now. You've got to meet with your client. You've got to understand as much as possible what these two individuals who just pled guilty are able to testify to against your client. You're certainly going to hear, press releases and that kind of noise about this doesn't make a difference, they're not to be trusted, and that kind of thing. But what's really going on is they're digging in and saying, what kind of damage can they do to us, and how do we blunt that? How do we challenge their credibility if they're going to testify against us? Can our defense survive with these two individuals coming on the stand in Georgia and in the January 6th case? Now, for the former president, in all likelihood, he's going to trial regardless. But that kind of calculus going on with defense counsel is really critical for the other remaining defendants in Georgia. And again, I think things have become very ominous for the Rudolph Giuliani, for Mark Meadows, and for the other defendants who realize that this ship may now be a sinking ship. And now they've got to calculate, do I keep on, going to trial and asserting my defenses, or can I get a deal like these two individuals? Don't forget, these two individuals got very generous plea deals. Both will essentially be able to wipe their record clear if they successfully complete probation. So some of the defendants are also thinking, is that plea available for me? I can't afford to risk going to trial with these two individuals now testifying against me. Maybe it's time. Those are all the calculations that are going on right now. It's an all hands on deck time for the remaining defendants.
All right. If you're just joining us, again, Kenneth Chesebro pleading guilty in that Georgia election case. We're going to continue to monitor developments there. But Jessica Levinson, Scott Fredricksen, thank you both for sharing your analysis with us.